Ciao besties, welcome back to my channel. My name is Viviana, and in this video I'm gonna reveal some of my secrets when it comes to showing work to my clients in a fun and creative but still effective way. One fundamental thing to remember when you work with a client is that we as designers are very familiar with the process and all the terminology and all the steps because it's literally our job. We do it every day with lots of clients and we are used to it. But our client probably isn't. Unless they have already worked with another designer in the past, they are probably not familiar with everything that you're gonna be doing. So you, as the designer who's gonna be the lead of this project, you have to make sure that your client is always on board from the get-go and that they know exactly what you're gonna do with their business and how. Your client needs to understand the process in order to be involved in it. Of course, when I say involved, I don't mean that the client is gonna call all the shots, because at the end of the day they are hiring you and you are the one who is in charge of everything. But of course you are working on their business and the branding for the business has to feel like it belongs to them, you know? So of course the client needs to be included in everything and they need to feel like they are. If they don't understand what's going on, obviously it's gonna be a little hard for them, you know? So how can we help them understand? How can we include them in the process? This is exactly what we're gonna talk about in this video, and it's a very important thing to start applying to your process from the beginning. And if you've never done this, you are definitely gonna see the difference once you do. But before jumping into today's video, if you're not subscribed to the channel, just click the subscribe button below. Okay, thank you. So what are the things that we can apply to our process that will help your clients understand what is going on? In my opinion, and this is something that I'm guilty of too, we as designers sometimes tend to throw around big words and terminology because we want to show our clients that we are capable of what we're doing, that we know what we're talking about. But again, the clients probably don't know what you're talking about. So don't just go and overcomplicate things all the time, because you will probably end up endlessly explaining yourself over and over again. And of course, when you're working with a client, you want the process to be as streamlined as possible. We are very busy. We need to get going and get to the point as fast as we can. So of course, if you do revisions after revisions because of misunderstandings, because your client didn't understand, because you thought that they meant something and they meant the complete opposite thing, it's not beneficial to anyone, you know? So my biggest tip to apply to your process when you're working with a client is to give them examples that are fun, they're engaging, and are realistic. So in this video, I'm gonna walk you through 3 different ways to do this in 3 different stages of the process. One for the brand strategy, one for the brand vision, and one for the brand concepts. So the first step of our process is of course developing the brand strategy. You will have to ask your clients every single question that comes to your mind to get to know their business. I personally use a questionnaire and I think that it's very useful because it's kind of an exercise for the client as well, because they probably haven't even thought about some things about their business that are actually very valuable. That is already a great way to kind of engage the client and make the process interactive. So after you have gathered all that information and you have talked to your client on a call or just discussed the details, you will have to come up with a brand strategy. Now there are many ways to build a brand strategy. Every designer does it in a different way, and honestly my strategy is different with every client because every client has different needs. But one thing that I want to focus on, because I don't know if many people do this and I think that it's very important, is adding some target personas to your brand strategy. Now the target personas are a great way to put into practice the brand's target strategy. When you're talking to a client, they might have trouble kind of picturing what kind of people you're actually talking about, because sometimes it can feel like a concept, an idea, and not a group of people that are actually real. So if you make up some target personas, it will be way easier for your client to actually picture the people that are gonna be the target audience for their business. And of course, with client personas, I mean actual people who have names, jobs, hobbies, frustrations, and problems that need to be solved, hopefully with your client's business. So if you give this concept to your client, then they will be able to immediately picture their ideal customer and connect with them and understand their needs better. Everybody says this, but it is true. People connect with other people. This is why we as designers have been turned into content creators nowadays, and literally anyone who has a business, because people connect with other people. So if you show your personality, if you show the person, the face behind the business, people will feel more connected to you and they will trust you more. And this is exactly what we're trying to apply in our process. So to give you an actual example of what I'm talking about, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to be using a brand that I have actually created on this channel in just 15 minutes. If you haven't watched this video and you want to know how I did that, you can check it out here. But if you have, you might remember that the brand that I created was a brand called Friendly Fits, a business that sells dog bandanas. So let's say that I'm creating a brand strategy presentation for this business. How do I actually add these target personas? In my opinion, just 2 target personas are enough for your client to understand. And with these 2 target personas, you kind of have to embrace all the aspects of your business, all their values, everything they want to achieve, but of course in different ways. So for example, in this case, we have one client that has never introduced their dog to dog bandanas and they want to do that for the first time. And on the other hand, we have actually someone who loves the product and they love it so much that they want more and more and more. So with the client that has never introduced their dog to the product, you have to kind of play into the comfort aspect of the product. So the fact that all the dogs find it comfortable, they're soft, and the dog doesn't want to rip it off immediately. And with the other client, the one that has many dog bandanas, you have to play on the fact that they are very creative and bright and colorful, and they are unique to the brand. So as you can see, we are focusing on 2 different, very important aspects of their business. But of course, I'm not gonna leave you like this. I'm gonna give you some do's and don'ts for every tip. In this case, my advice is to focus on the brand's values and make them relatable, make them feel like actual people. But when it comes to don'ts, don't add too many details. Don't make up an entire life history. Try to focus on the business and what the business can do for this person. And of course, don't go off topic. So to recap, in our first step of the process, the brand strategy, my fun and effective way to show work to my clients is target personas. Now let's move on to the second way. This is something that is applied during the second step of the process, which is the brand vision. Of course, when you are developing a brand strategy, you always have to show your client actually what you're talking about. Because again, they might not be very familiar with the process and it might be a little bit hard for them to actually visualize what everything that you are talking about actually means visually. So in my brand strategy presentation, I always add some visual parts. And of course, this means mood boards. And I know that you might be thinking, well, mood boards, duh. But here's a twist. When you're showing your client a mood board, always add annotations. The beauty of pictures and images is that everything is kind of up to the person interpretation. You can see something differently than I do. So of course, when you give a mood board to your client, they might not interpret it in the same way that you do. So it is very helpful to add annotations to kind of explain exactly why you added the specific image. For example, let's say that I'm adding a picture of a box that is pink and green and that has a lot of type on it. How does the client know if I'm adding the picture for the color combination or for the type and style of the packaging? If you add an annotation on it, then your client will understand, because maybe they like the colors but they don't like the type, and then they might reject your idea just because they think that you meant the type but you actually meant the colors. This once again helps with avoiding misunderstandings and slowing down the process. You have to help your client every step of the way, even if it means repeating yourself or explaining things that you think are obvious but maybe they are obvious to you and not to them. So let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. In my brand strategy presentation, I always give my clients 2 different concepts with 2 different mood boards and 2 different color palettes. Both of these mood boards are born from the brand strategy. So of course, they're going to have a lot of similarities, but the creative direction and of course the colors are different. So this is the moment when the client actually chooses where their branding is going to go. It is very important that they understand what they are choosing. Again, we are going to use Friendly Fits as an example. And as you can see, the first mood board is very different from what we actually ended up doing. This is the rejected concept. So in this mood board, I added 2 annotations, and usually I do 2 or 3 tops. In the illustration part, I wrote in the annotation that I did not want to use either the colors or the fonts, but just the style of the illustration, which is very important. If the client maybe saw that picture just on its own, they might have thought, well, I don't like these colors, I don't like this font, there is too much black. But if you actually write down what you are interested in that picture, they will obviously understand it better. Of course, this concept wasn't accepted by the client, me. So let's move on to the second one. In the second one, we see exactly what was applied actually in the branding. Just like the first one, I added 2 annotations. Now, in this one, I actually said that what interests me in the example picture that I added is the manipulating of the typography in a way that kind of resembled some dog tails. And of course, I have some do's and don'ts for this tip as well. Draw attention to the details. Don't just say something general that might be added in the general description of the board. Choose one specific detail and tell them why you chose that picture. And of course, in your mood boards, try to think out of the box, add fonts, some packaging, some imagery, like literally anything that reminds you of what you are going with, even something that is not specifically related to the business itself. Of course, not too much, but if you see some color combo on a packaging that doesn't really have much to do with what you're doing, it doesn't matter. Use that picture and add an annotation and say, this color combo would really work with this concept. And of course, do not add too many annotations, because of course the client still has to be able to see the whole mood board on its own and just visualize their branding. If there are too many things written on it, of course it's going to be very hard to do so. And don't be too minimalistic. Don't put too many generic things. Just go straight to the details, straight to the point. And then last but not least, we are moving on to the final step of our process, the brand presentation. Now, presenting your brand to a client is basically the most important part of everything, because that is the first impression that your client gets. So you have to make sure to present it in the best way possible, and of course that way has to be effective but still fun. So my last tip on how to present your work to your clients is mockups. Again, this might seem obvious, but hear me out. Yes, everybody knows mockups, but it's the way that you use them that kind of makes the difference. Because when you use mockups in your presentation, you are actually letting your client understand how their business could work in real life. This is something that in my services I call brand application. The mockups that I use aren't necessarily mockups that my clients have commissioned me. That is just an idea of how the brand could work. And I put all of these mockups in the very first brand presentation. So these mockups aren't necessarily representing what is going to be actually designed later. But, and here's the twist again, these mockups are actually an amazing way to spark ideas. And for example, this happened to me very recently with my client. I put the logo mark design on a tote bag just to show them how it could work, how fun it would be, and they absolutely loved the tote bag design, and then they commissioned me some tote bags. And of course, you have to make them fun, you have to make them branded, you have to make them engaging. And actually, I'm gonna show you exactly how I do that. I'm gonna bring you with me on Photoshop, and I will show you how I give a simple mockup an amazing glow up. Okay, so here we are on Photoshop, and for example, let's say that you have this cute little picture of a dog with a banana and you want to use it to present the logo suite. Well, you could simply just take the logo from the Illustrator file and just bring it into the picture. Just like that, you can put it in the corner and call it a day. But it is a bit sad and it is a bit just simple. I don't feel like this is very engaging for the client and exciting, but there's something else that we can do. We can take this picture and actually have a little bit of fun with it. So what I want to do is actually scale it down a little bit because I want to show the dog a little bit more, and then I want to put a cute little background. So let's select the object and then select and mask, and we're gonna have a perfect mask of this cute little dog. Is so adorable. And of course, if we want to make it branded, the first thing is obviously add in the brand colors. And then I want to make the dog kind of pop a little bit. Graphic designers love this term, pop. I'm adding a little shadow that it's not really a shadow. Now I feel like the dog is a little bit more friendly with this like white shadow. And then we bring the logo in again. I think this is so fun because you have to remember that this is not the only way that your client is going to see the logo, right? You are going to have to just show them the logo as it is. So when you add it into pictures like this, you can have fun with it. So we went from this to this. Now, you tell me which one of these two you think is more exciting and fun for the client to see. But of course, we're not just presenting the logo, we are actually doing mockups. So when you use mockups in your presentation, I have to be honest, the type of mockup that you use and the quality of the mockup that you use kind of makes the difference. The amount of things that you can edit in a mockup are very important when you're showing your client some custom packaging, for example. So I think that investing in some good mockups is really important for the business in the long long run, and that is why I use services like Envato Elements. Envato Elements is an online creative library with up to 59 million creative assets for literally anything, from fonts to mockups to any kind of template. So if you feel like you want to step up your mockup game, you can check out a 7 days free trial for Envato Elements in the first link in my description. If you do that, you're gonna get some amazing assets with a commercial license, let's not forget that, and you will also support me and the channel, so thank you if you do that. But let's move on to the actual mockups. So just like the first example that I showed you, let's say we want to put a logo suite on a box. We're not designing an actual box, we're just presenting it on a mockup. We could do this, just simply put the logo on a sticker on a box and just give it to the client, or we can step it up and give this mockup a glow up. So if you've never used a mockup, I understand that it can be a little intimidating. It is actually pretty easy. So I'm gonna walk you through how to use mockups on Photoshop, because I do get questions like this, especially on Instagram. When you open a mockup, most of the times you will have actual directions on the mockup on how to edit things and where to put them. So for example, if we click here on boxes, you will have all the layers that say your design here. So you know that you have to click there and import your design on that layer. Every mockup of course has different directions, but they all work just the same. And of course, the more high quality the mockup is, the more things you will be able to edit. So if we come back to our example, I just want to put the logo suite on the boxes and kind of show my client how it could work on a potential box. So for this first box, I want to make it pink. I'm importing from the Illustrator file the background, and then again I'm bringing in the same secondary logo mark. Given the shape of this first box, this logo is the one that fits in the most. Great, already very great, I love this. Then we are moving on to the same part and doing basically the same thing. I want to add my logo mark, my beautiful logo mark that if you've seen the video you might remember what happened when I designed this one. I want to add it on the side. See, it looks cool. So now I will work on the rest and I will see you when I'm done. Okay, so here we have the 3 boxes ready, but of course this is not it. In this beautiful mockup we also have the option to change the background. So for the wall I want to stick with this orange, but of course change it to our brand orange. And then for the floor I think I want to go with white. And yeah, it's looking great, but again we are not done. We're gonna add a finishing touch. We are gonna bring in the logo mark in pink and see how we can make it work on the background. This pink is a little bit too much, so I'm gonna go on the blending options and see which one of these is better for this kind of thing. So yeah, here we have it. Let's see the difference from this one to the first one that I showed you. Like, what? You can imagine how much more excited your client will get if they see this instead of just this plain simple design. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, leave me a like and tell me below what are your ways to show your clients your work in a fun and engaging way. If you would like to see more videos like this, you can subscribe to my channel and follow me on all my social media. And if you want to see everything that we have talked about in action, you can watch my Design With Me playlist with all my brand design videos. If you made it to this part of the video, let's comment the pencil emoji. I don't know why, but let's comment the pencil emoji. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you again in another video next week. Ciao! My Photoshop is like, hello, not working.